Hi, boys and girls. We are going to wrap up this final chapter of our math book talking about all of the different measurable attributes. Those are some big words, measurable attributes. That means we're looking at if something can be measured by the length or height, if we can weigh something on a scale to see how heavy it is, and if we can fill something up to figure out the capacity, how much it holds. That's what we're talking about today. Let's take a look at our learning target and our success criteria. Remember, the learning target is what we're trying to learn. Here's the target. I can identify the measurable attributes of an object. We will know that you're successful at that if you can decide whether an object has a given attribute, and if you can give an example of an object that has a given attribute. So I have some objects to show you, and we are going to talk about the measurable attributes. That means we're going to talk about, is that something where you can measure the length or the height? Is that something that you could put on a scale and weigh it? Is that something that you could put stuff inside to see what the capacity is? Let's see. First thing I have is a pair of scissors. I know my screen's a little bit blurry, but with a pair of scissors, do you think I could measure how long these scissors are? Could I take a ruler and hold it up to my scissors and measure how long they are? Yes. One of the measurable attributes of my scissors is that I can measure the length. What about the weight? Do you think that I could put my scissors on a scale and see how heavy my scissors are? Sure, I could. Yeah, I could weigh my scissors. So another measurable attribute about my scissors is the weight. Now, could I fill my scissors up with something? Could I put a bunch of stuff inside and fill them up with something? Like, could I fill my scissors up with some water to see how much water it can hold? No, that's not a thing. My scissors cannot measure capacity. So I can measure length, I can measure weight, but I cannot measure capacity with my scissors. All right, what about this water bottle? Could I measure how tall my water bottle is? Yes, I could. I could take a ruler and I could see just how tall it is. So length is a measurable attribute of my water bottle. Could my water bottle go on a scale and then we could check out how much it weighs? Yes, it could. That's a thumbs up. Yes. If we can measure how much something weighs, then weight is a measurable attribute of that object. Could I fill this water bottle up with something to measure the capacity of it? Could I fill this up with water to see how much water it can hold? Yes, I can. I couldn't do that with the scissors, but I can with a water bottle. So my water bottle can be measured by length, by weight, and also by capacity. All right, I have one more object here. It's a pencil box. All right, could I use a ruler to measure the length of my pencil box? Yes, I can. I could see how long this is. Could my pencil box sit on a scale so that we could measure how much it weighs? Yes, we could. We could see how much this weighs. Could I fill my pencil box up with something to measure the capacity and see how much room it is to hold something inside of it? Yes. So my pencil box can be measured by length. It can be measured using weight, and we can also use it to measure capacity. All right, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to find things in our houses. All right, So I want you to all find something in your house that you could measure using length or height. So something that you could measure to see how long it is or how high it is. All right, ready? Go get something in your house. All right, the next thing is I want you to find something from your house that we could measure using weight as an attribute. That means we could take something and put it on a scale and measure how much it weighs. Go find something in your house that we could find how much it weighs. All right, the last thing is I want you to find something that has capacity as an attribute. That means we could put stuff inside of it to see how much of something it could hold. We could fill it up with water, or we could fill it up with beads. Something that holds things. That is something that has capacity. All right, go find something in your house that we could use that has an attribute of capacity. All right, take a look at my book. You don't have to open your book quite yet. Oops, you can't see my book. There we go. You don't have to open your book quite yet. But when we see these cubes, that is showing us that we are measuring either the length or the height of something. If I took my scissors and then I took some math cubes, I could measure to see how many math cubes long my scissors are. Math cubes could be used to measure the length. So this means we're measuring how long or how high something is. This is a picture of a scale. So this represents that we could measure how much something weighs. And this is a liquid measuring cup. So this represents capacity. This represents that things can be filled up and we can measure the attribute of capacity. All right. Let's first talk just about length or height. Maybe I can cover up these other ones. Let's see. I think I can. I'm going to cover up capacity. I'm going to cover up weight. And we are just looking at height and length. You are going to show me thumbs up or thumbs down for each of these objects, okay? Can I measure the length or the height of a stick? Can that be measured to see how long it is? Thumbs up. Yes, it can. Sorry, I'm going to move this just for a second. Okay, there we go. What about a vase? Could I measure how high or how long a vase is? Is that possible? Is length or height an attribute of the vase? Yes, I could measure to see how long or how high a vase is. All right, what about a milk jug? Could I measure a milk jug to see how long it is or how high it is? Yes, I could. I could measure that. Scissors. Can I measure either the length or the height of scissors? Is that something that can be measured? Yes, you can measure how long scissors are. What about a notebook? Could I measure how long a notebook is? Yes, I could. What about a teapot? Could I measure how long a teapot is or how high a teapot is? Yes, all of these objects have length or height as an attribute. That means for all of those objects, I could figure out how long it is or how high it is by measuring. Okay, let's take a look at this one that's called capacity. Let's think about capacity. Capacity means you could fill it up with something. We could fill it up with something and we could see how much of something fits inside of it. So, what about a teapot? Could a teapot have capacity as an attribute? That means, could we fill a teapot up with something and see how much it holds? Yes, we could. That has capacity. What about a notebook? Could we fill the notebook up with something to see how much water it holds or how many marbles it holds? No, we could not. That's a thumbs down. A notebook does not have capacity as an attribute, so that's a no. What about scissors? Could we measure the capacity of scissors? Could we fill the scissors up with a bunch of water to see how much water the scissors hold? No, we could not. That doesn't even make sense, does it? That's a no. What about the milk jug? Does the milk jug have capacity? Can it be filled up with something? Yes, it can. We could find out what the capacity is of the milk jug. What about a vase, a flower vase? Does a flower vase have capacity? Could it be filled up with something? Could we see how much of something it holds? Yes, it can. And finally, my stick. Can my stick demonstrate capacity? No. No, it cannot, because we can't fill a stick up with a bunch of pieces of pasta and see how many pieces of pasta does my stick hold. No, that's crazy. The stick does not show us capacity. All right, last one is weight. All right, I'm going to cover up these other ones. Now we're talking about, can we see how much something weighs? Could we see how much a stick weighs? Is that possible? Yes, it is. Is it possible to see how much scissors weigh? Yes, weight is an attribute of scissors. Could we see how much the notebook weighs? Yes, we can. Could we find out how much the teapot weighs? Yes, we can. Could we find out how much the vase weighs? Yes, we can. And could we find out how much the milk jug weighs? Yes, we can. All right. Good job, boys and girls. So those are the measurable attributes we're talking about today. We're looking at objects and deciding, could we measure the length or the height of that object? Could we measure the weight of that object? And could we measure the capacity of that object? That's what we're looking at. Go ahead and open your book to page 678. Page 678. We're going to look at one row at a time. For each picture on this side, we are going to circle what measurable attributes this object has. That means, can we measure how long the sunglasses are? Yes, we can. So that's this one. This shows that we can measure either the length or the height. Could we measure how much the sunglasses weigh? Yes, we could. So that's the scale. The scale says we can measure the weight. Could we measure how much the sunglasses can hold of something? No. No, we're not circling capacity because we cannot fill the sunglasses up with anything. The sunglasses do not have capacity. All right, now we have a comb. Could we measure either the length or the height of the comb? Yes, that is possible to see how long the comb is. So we circle this attribute. Could we use a scale and try to find out how much a comb weighs? Yes, that is possible. This comb has weight. Does the comb have capacity? Can the comb be filled up with something? Can we measure how much of something the comb can hold? No, this comb does not have capacity, so don't circle that one. All right, we have a dog food dish. Could we see how long or how high the dog food is? The dog food dish is? Yes, we could. It has length or height as an attribute. Could we try to find out how much the dog food dish weighs? Is that possible? Yes, it is. It has weight as an attribute. Circle that. Could we, this is for capacity, figure out how much the dog food dish could hold? Could we fill it up with something to see how much it can hold? Yeah, usually people fill it up with dog food or with water for the dog. So it does have capacity as an attribute. All right, a water bottle. What do you think? Can we measure as an attribute the length or the height of the water bottle? Yes, we can. Could we measure the weight of a water bottle? Yes, we can. Could we measure the capacity of a water bottle? That means, can you fill it up and see how much it can hold? Yes, we can. A water bottle is made for holding something, water. All right, same thing on this row. Let's look at the flower. Which attributes apply to the flower? Can you measure the length of a flower? Yes, you can. Can you measure the weight of a flower? Yes, you can. Can you measure the capacity of a flower? That means, can you fill it up and see how much it can hold? No, we can't take a bunch of pieces of candy and fill it up inside the flower. No, the flower has no capacity. All right, now we have a pot. Could we measure the length of the pot or the height of the pot? Yeah, we can see how tall that pot is. Could we find out how much that pot weighs? Is that possible? Yes, that is possible. It has weight as an attribute. This shows capacity. Does the pot have capacity? Can it be filled up with something? Yeah, we could fill it up with dirt. We could fill it up with water. We could fill it up with all kinds of things. The pot has capacity as an attribute. All right, what about a button? Could we measure the length of a button? We could. Could we measure the weight of a button? Yes, we could. Could we measure the capacity of a button? No, we could not. A button has no capacity. All right, a jump rope. Could we measure the length of a jump rope? Yes, we could. Could we measure the weight of a jump rope? Yes, we could. Could we measure the capacity of a jump rope? No, there's no capacity. We can't fill the jump rope up with anything. All right, on this bottom row, it's a little bit different. I want you to circle any of the objects that have capacity as an attribute. Does a jar have capacity as an attribute? Could you fill it up? Yes, it does. Does a starfish have capacity as an attribute? Nope. Does a box have capacity as an attribute? Could it be filled up with something? Yes. You can fill up a box. Does a pencil have capacity as an attribute? No, it can't be filled up with anything. What about a glue bottle? Does a glue bottle have capacity as an attribute? Yes, it does. All right, turn to the other side. So this shows capacity. This is something that represents that we can measure the capacity, how much of something can fit inside. Right here, let's draw an object together that shows capacity. I want us to draw a bucket. So I'm going to start by making an oval. I'm going to make another little oval kind of around that. And I'm going to just make it kind of go down like this. Give it a little handle here. All right, a bucket. A bucket shows capacity. We could fill that bucket up with all kinds of things, and we could measure how much that bucket can hold. So this shows capacity. I'm going to say a star for yes, it shows capacity. Now down here, I want us to draw something that does not have capacity. Something that does not have capacity. Let's draw a pencil. I'm going to start kind of like a rectangle, but I'm going to end with a point, and the tip of my pencil will be colored. And then I'm going to make a little eraser right here. And then my pencil is going to kind of have some stripes on it. All right, my pencil does not have capacity. It's just a pencil. I cannot measure how much of anything it holds. It's just a pencil. Okay, we're moving on to the practice page. Let's see what you can do here by yourself. This first one is done. So there was a green bowl, and They circled that you can measure the length or the height of the bowl. You can measure the weight of the bowl, and you could also measure the capacity of the bowl. Now I want you to do that for each of these three pictures. Take a look at the tennis racket. Which of these things show its measurable attributes? Take a look at this bag. Which of these things show the measurable attributes? And then the same thing with the box. I'm going to pull mine away and circle my answers. And I want you to circle your answers all by yourself. Go ahead and do that right now, and we will check our work together. Okay, for the tennis racket, did you circle the same ones as me? We can measure the length and we can measure the weight, but we cannot measure the capacity. For the bag, I circled all three. We can measure the length, we can also measure the weight, and we can measure the capacity. We can see how much we can fill it up and how much we can put inside of it. And for the box, I did the same ones. We could measure the length of the box, we could measure the weight of the box, and we could measure the capacity of the box to see how much fits inside the box. All right, take a look at this one, please. Go ahead and do that same thing with the broccoli. What measurable attributes does the broccoli have? I'll do mine over here, and we'll check our work together. All right, did you circle the same answers as me? We could see how long or how tall the broccoli is. That's this one. We could measure how much the broccoli weighs. That's this one. But we cannot measure the capacity. We can't see how much the broccoli holds of anything. The broccoli is not a container that holds anything. All right, on this one, number 5, please circle all of the objects where we could measure the length or the height. So that would be this symbol. Any of these things where we could see how tall it is or how long it is, that's what I want you to circle. So I'm going to take mine away and do mine off the screen while you do the same with yours. Circle anything that has length as an attribute, and we could circle we could measure the length or the height of something. Did you circle everything? We could measure how long or how tall any of these things are. We could measure the fork, the nail polish, the ball, the tree, the water bottle, the airplane, all of those things. We could measure how long it is or how tall it is. All of these things have length as a measurable attribute. All right, we're getting close to the end here. Number 6. Please draw an object that has length as an attribute. You could draw probably just about anything that you could measure its length or its height. I'm going to draw a book. So if you want to draw a book, you could do the same thing as me. I'm going to kind of make its pages open like this. All right, I just made a book. You can make whatever you want as long as you could measure the length or the height of something. All right, last one. Please draw something that has weight as a measurable attribute. What would have weight as a measurable attribute? That means you could put it on some type of a scale, any type of a scale, and see how much it weighs. Just about anything really has weight as a measurable attribute. I'm going to draw an apple. That's my apple. All right. Let's think back to what was our success criteria today. I said I wanted you to be able to decide whether an object has a given attribute. So I wanted you to be able to say, what are the attributes of something like a broccoli? And then I wanted you to be able to give an example of an object that has a given attribute. So if I say, what is an object that has length as an attribute? You can say, oh, of course, Miss Mackenzie, a book. Or if I say, what has weight as an attribute? You can say, of course, Mrs. Mackenzie, an apple. All right, good job today in math. I will see you next time, boys and girls.